Yes, people, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the match reaction for Chelsea versus Man United. Should have dropped earlier, but after that performance yesterday, just needed some time to sit back and look into it. But let's get into it. Man United 2, Chelsea 1. Where do we start? Let's start with Man United. I thought Man United on the day, they were up for it. I thought on the day, they outplayed us in every part of the pitch. They were doing kind of what we should have been doing in the sense of the game. They were pressing, they were up for it. They had a lot of intent, a lot of desire. They looked like the team that wanted to win a game. They looked like a Man United team that, with all those rumors about Ten Hag losing the dressing room and everything, they look like a Man United team that says, okay, there's a lot that's been said about us. We're going to use this game as an opportunity to put it right and to put it straight. And to their credit, they did well. They played well. Outplayed Chelsea in all fronts. They bossed the midfield. Amrabat and McTominay did well in that midfield. Their wingers were actually, a threat for. That's not something I say a lot about Man United, because Anthony has that ability of being start-stop. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not as good. But they were both on it. Even defensively, I thought in moments they were solid. But yeah, you have to give credit to Man United in terms of the way they approached the game. I mean, they did what they had to do, and eventually they got the result. Listen, it should have been probably 4-5. That's a very flattering scoreline. It should have been easily 4, easily 5, because of the way that they were playing us. So I start off the video by saying, look, I give credit to Man United. I'm not here to take anything away from them. I thought they played very, very well. I think they approached the game very, very well. And, big up to Man United for the way that they approached the game. From a Chelsea standpoint, it's like I said earlier, where do we start? We can start with the team lineup. I thought the team lineup in so many areas was imbalanced. I thought from defensively, Correa playing at right back, Levi at left back, something I've not really been a big fan of this season. It was already imbalanced, and here Reece James picked up a knock, so he didn't start the game. But you could see it was already imbalanced. And, Man United looked at it and they said, this Chelsea team can be got at. And they did. So it was already imbalanced from the start. And listen, we started kind of nervy. We started off on the back foot, kind of like the way we did against Tottenham, where they were blitzing it about. And I thought, at some point, we'll get a foothold in the game. At some point, we'll calm ourselves down, get a foothold in the game and start playing good football. But listen, our midfield was dominated. We started off being very rash. We gave away a penalty in the, I think that should have been the 7th, 8th minute early on in the game. How Bruno didn't score, I won't know, because he's usually very, very good. His record's very good from the spot. Kind of like an off day. At that point, it kind of also summarized Man United a little bit. Can be good, can be bad. And, Bruno missing that pen early on was one of those ones where you think Man United fans at that point probably thought, right, it could be one of them games. But, after that, we didn't get a foothold in the game. That was the biggest issue I saw. We didn't get a foothold in the game. They kept on putting pressure on us. Garnacho had a chance that was saved. Højlund had a chance that he pushed Sanchez into making a save. I mean, they were creating chances, so it's not surprised that eventually they get the first score. And again, it comes from us trying to play out the back, which was atrocious. I mean, in the end, it was very, very atrocious, because we couldn't play out the back whatsoever yesterday. So we're trying to play out the back. We lose the ball high up the pitch. We lose the ball. And again, I think that comes off a spell of good United pressing. They get the ball back. Bruno's in acres of space, picks out the run. Ball, I don't know if it was Garnacho or who puts the ball in the box. Maguire's free on the D, has a shot, it's blocked, forced to McTominay, hits it with his right-footed, I think, if I'm not mistaken, hits it with his left foot, bang, it's 1-0. And at that point, that was what Man United deserved, because they were the better team all around. And it's not even just that. After that, they kept on the intensity, they kept on pressing us, they kept on pushing us into mistakes. We couldn't get a foothold in that game. And then, luckily, we get an opportunity. When they kind of laid off the press a little bit, we got an opportunity, chance for into Modric. Modric turns, passes it into Cole Palmer. Cole Palmer showed a lot of composure, 1-2, damage it, and just passes into the net. That was a brilliant finish. It was a class finish. So that was something good that we did in the game. But if I can go back to it, prior to that, the old Chelsea reappeared. The old Chelsea of having chances and not being clinical enough. Mudryk missed a chance. Jackson missed a chance. Sterling couldn't make a 5-yard pass. It was all happening in the first half, and so somehow, luckily, we get into the break 1-1, and then second half. Second half was just complete capitulation. Now, at halftime, I would have taken Levi off, and I put Thiago Silva and Disasi as centre backs and play Reece at right back and Kukurea at left. But he stuck with Levi Cole, right? The one thing that frustrated me about the second half was, I know Man United pressed us this game. That I'll give to them. But I wouldn't say that we were pressed in to the point of, this, that, with that. They are actually on us. I really felt the great majority of the time is our build-up was not there. We were trying to build up from the back. We were trying to play it out, try to pass it by them, trying in that regard to beat that press. We couldn't beat that press. We couldn't even get the ball past the halfway line. At some point, I was getting frustrated in the game because it looks like we were allergic to the ball. Everybody that has the ball gives it to a United player. Sanchez, pass it to a United player. Caicedo, everybody was just giving the ball away. And for the majority of the game, they were in our half. We barely create. I think the only chance that we had was the chance that Reece James was offside, plays the ball into the box. That was probably it. In the second half. I felt like we couldn't even keep the ball enough to create moments. We couldn't even keep the ball enough to break up the play, give ourselves an advantage, give ourselves a free kick, and try to build from there. But it was just poor in the end. And then, they kept the ball in our half. And listen, even in the second half, they could have easily had a couple of more. They were missing a lot of chances in the second half. And eventually the goal comes. Garnacho free, picks out a cross in the end. McTominay, very, very poor defending from Levi Cole, heads it in. 2-1 Man United. And at that point, and even before that, we were screaming for substitutions because Jackson wasn't doing anything in this game. I know our bench was a little bit thin. Jackson wasn't really doing anything in terms of this game. And that's what probably frustrated me the most, is because we're trying to play out the back. It's clearly evident that for 15, 20 minutes, we have failed to play out the back. Even before Man United scored their goal, it's clearly evident that we couldn't play out the back. So for me, I was like, why not bring on Broya and start going long? Why not bring on Broya, start going long, try and start winning the ball high up the pitch, get the players a little bit high up the pitch, and build from there. But every time we couldn't even do that simply because we wanted to play it out the back. And that was putting us under pressure because they knew to say every time they try to play out the back, press them, make a mistake. But it wasn't just about the pressing, because even when we got into moments where we are like, okay, we've somewhat beaten the press, it's like, okay, now let's create something. Let's go. Let's try and carry the ball forward. We couldn't even make simple 5-yard passes. We couldn't even find our man, and that was the most disappointing part in the end. Eventually, they scored. McTominay 2. A few minutes later, he could have had his third if he didn't fluff his lines. I mean, overall, it was just a poor performance from everybody collectively. The players, for me, couldn't even do the basics. Passing, couldn't even do the basics. Get the ball, make a simple 5-yard pass the ball. Players couldn't do the basics. The manager, I can understand you say, okay, my bench is thin, but at the end of the day, for me, any manager works with their bench. There's a reason you've got those players on the bench. You're not just saying, okay, get these players in, let's fill up the numbers. I know some of them are inexperienced. You talk about the Gilchrist, the Matos, David Washington. A lot of these young players are inexperienced, and I get that. But at the same time, for me, I feel like at some point you have to look and say, my team right now, some of those players are not playing very well. They need to be hooked, because the question that we need to ask is, what are we doing in training? What are we doing in training to prepare for such eventualities, to prepare for what happens? So I looked at the manager yesterday and I was disappointed. A lot disappointed in terms of his in-game management, his inability to see that we can play out for the back. Can we go a bit direct? We've got Broya. He can be an area present. He can win headers. At least try and get us out. I'm not saying that would have been the solution, but for me, I mean, we're pressed in. We need an opportunity to get into Man United's half. We couldn't get into Man United's half. Onana had a good game yesterday. We didn't test Onana. We didn't put ourselves in positions enough to test Onana, right? And even when you talk about some of the players he brought on, Broya, I'm asking myself the question, what is the plan for Broya? Because it seems like you're only bringing him in when we're in an emergency situation and you want him to bail you out. Yesterday was the perfect game for him to start. I'm not opposed to Jackson starting, provided he does what he needs to do. But at the same time, I'm looking at yesterday's game and say, why didn't Breuer start? Give Jackson a stint on the bench. We've got Everton on the weekend. It's not like he's going to sit. We've got Everton on the weekend. He can play, but perfect game for Breuer to start. Jackson, not at it yesterday. Not at it yesterday. Even the chance that he missed, you can argue to say that. So like I said, even the chance that Jackson missed, you can argue to say that he was it was one of them ones he had to take quick, but obviously he gave Onana a good head start. Should really do better. Maybe try and take it first time. I don't know. But at the same time, all of those mistakes culminated to a poor performance. All of those mistakes culminated to a poor performance in the end. That it just wasn't good enough. It just wasn't good enough. Where we go from here, I honestly don't know. At this point, I'm not even looking at going up the table. At this point, for me, I'm focusing on areas that we can improve. Which again, there's not really a lot to go for in terms of improvement. But at this point, I don't even know where we can go from here with that type of performance. At this point, for me, I'm just like, listen, let's save face, let's create cohesion. I mean, there's a lot of places that we're lacking. We're talking about defensive partnership. We don't actually have a number one defensive partnership. And I feel like now, because everybody's up and down, is a perfect chance that we need to rip it off. For example, Badiashile played well in the Newcastle game. Should have been rewarded. Should have played. Didn't feature whatsoever. You know, it's things like that. Obviously, we missed Gallagher yesterday because of, his ability to press, put people under pressure, this, that, and the other. But I'm looking at that and I'm still thinking we couldn't keep the ball. So if we can't keep the ball, and try to strum together good chances, how are we going to break it down on United side? And even some of the United fans are saying, listen, you missed Gallagher because Gallagher would have been the one to put our players under pressure. Amrabat ended up having a good game because he wasn't really put under pressure, this, that, and the other. But in the overall, it just wasn't good enough, because I'm looking at it and say, yeah, Gallagher is just one player. There's 11 players that have to prove. There's 11 players that had to show, and they didn't collectively. Not just one, not just two, collectively. Our midfield was non-existent. Enzo and Caicedo, worst performance. Probably their worst performance. Worst performance of Caicedo in a Chelsea shirt. Even worse than West Ham. Even worse than West Ham when he comes in, little cameo, gives away pen. It was terrible. It was terrible. I don't know with this Chelsea team. I don't know, because right now, the best we can finish is probably 8th or 9th. That's probably the highest. It hurts me to say that, but that's 8th or 9th, because this is where we are. Because looking at the way we're playing, I don't think we're going to be consistent over the long haul. And I think right now, the best thing that we can do for ourselves, for me, is try to fix some of the problems that we have. I'm not looking at consistency. I'm not looking at where we can finish. I'm just simply saying, let's develop a style of play. Let's put together an 11. Let's stop chopping and changing. Let's know who our first 11 is, and let's see how we can go about it. Because at this point, I'm not even looking forward to games anymore. Probably the only games I look forward to is cup games, because maybe there's a chance of us to make it to a final and to win some silverware. But the games overall, I'm not looking forward to it. Poor performance across the board. We couldn't pass. We couldn't press. There was just no intensity. I started off by giving Man United their credit, but there's a huge part of me that feels like we contributed to that. We made them look good. Some Man United fans are coming and say, yeah, we won the game, but I'm not getting carried away. The Chelsea team was poor. So if some United fans are saying this, they're probably looking at their team to say, no, listen, we're equally as bad. You made us look good. And I'm not saying that's what the case, because I have to give them their credit. They played well on the day. So it wasn't a good performance from us. Where we go, I don't know. Am I Poch out? At this point, for me, it's hard to pinpoint one person, because I think it's across the board. Because it's very easy to scapegoat Poch. It's very easy to scapegoat the players. But nobody wants to make the ownership accountable. Their approach is probably one of the reasons that we're in this situation. We got rid of experienced players, but we didn't we replace those experienced players with people who are equally experienced. And this is where we are. So accountability is across the board. The ownership, the players, and the manager. And if we are going to improve, all of these three have to work together. So I don't know. I can't even start saying who to bring in January. The only thing I'm looking at right now in January is I'll probably bring Andre Santos back, because Caicedo having poor performances right now is worrying me. I'll probably bring Andre Santos back. Maybe send Leslie on loan to Strasbourg. Keep Andre Santos. Hopefully Lavia will be back by then, and we'll kind of have a few more players in that midfield. Maybe we can see something different. But even Andre Santos is a young player, so we can't rely on him. So in the end, just wasn't good enough. Not a good performance. Man United 2, Chelsea 1. Pathetic, poor performance overall. Make sure you like, share, subscribe on the video. Thank you so much for the love, the support. I'll see you in the next video, people. Take care.